This is Batman calling from Wayne Manor with a special announcement. From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Dominating with Dawson.
Ben Dawson. Ben Dawson.
Hello.
Come in, Ben Dawson. Ben Dawson.
Back in the game.
He's back. Ben Dawson, I have a question for you.
Hey.
It's almost
Okay.
like we should have a segment on our podcast that we ask you questions. I'm thinking we could call it something. I don't know what. Get
Yeah, I feel like the people demand this. They demand this sort of thing. I think one thing you call it would be demonstrating with Dawson.
Demonstrating with Dawson. That would work. Yeah.
Dadding with Dawson.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of good stuff out there. Like a lot of
Drinking with Dawson.
like alliteration. Drinking with Dawson. I like to hit a beer.
Drinking with
into
Dawson.
Yeah,
I think Jen might come
drinking with
more
Dawson,
often.
Sure. What do we got? What are
That
we
could
talking
be a
about
special segment.
That could be. I think that's going to be when we get together in real life.
That's right.
today? Yeah,
Drinking with
that guy who has this show with the hot wings where he talks to famous people while they eat hot wings.
Yeah.
Which is on right now.
We could have one of those where people can get on there with me, and I just get drunk. They get drunk if they want to. Also, that'd be fun.
We have all the wings. If you're into wings, we could do that for you. We did that with Liam for like a long time ago.
Good.
We're not above
good at
stupid
eating
ideas.
wings. I'm super into stupid ideas.
All right, very well. Well, we've got an idea. We
Okay.
thought we would discuss the difference between adapting a car to a driver and adapting the driver to a car.
Okay.
Okay, because
I
we think,
think they're
you
both
need to-
important to figure out, right?
we need to do both, ideally.
Yeah.
But once you're in the car, unless it's a lot fancier than any of our cars, it kind of is what it is. So I guess philosophically, what would the difference be?
I think in general, adapting a car to a driver is just trying to set up a car to a driver's preference, which I think in general, we're usually talking about adapting a car to a team, at least the focus of this group, right? We're usually talking about endurance racing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to adapt a car to a group of people.
Right. Trying to make it as drivable by most of us as we can.
That's right. But also, I only pointed out to bring up the contrast that, if you're driving, trying to set up a car for one person's specific tastes, you might make it where it's a lot more specific. Like for me, I want a car that's really loose, and everybody else on my team, doesn't. So that's one thing. So it's a different thing to keep a whole group of people's goals in mind, or what they like, their preferences in mind, versus one person. But so generally you're trying to make an endurance car as easy to drive as possible. I think it's more important to focus on adapting yourself to whatever car you're in, because as endurance races, we're often going to be might not be specifically suited to our tastes. Does that make sense? So I think more often you're going to be adapting to a car.
It does. And just to go back and cover, if you're on an endurance team with like 3 or 4 drivers, do you typically make the car neutral? Do you make it fit the slower driver? Do you make it, what do you think philosophically you'd want to do?
Oh, I think the neutral is as neutral as possible.
You broke up on your answer.
Sorry about that. I think that you would skew toward as neutral as possible. My AirPod was falling out of my ear. I was hoping nothing bad happened. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, so now as you get better, you not only know a little bit more about what you want from the car, and you actually know what kind of car you'd like. Like you know much better than we would what car you would prefer. But eventually we get to the point where, you're strapping yourself into the car, you're going out to the track, and you kind of got what you got, right? And
Right.
You're in the middle of a race.
Everybody's going to get to that point.
Right. You're in the middle of the race, and you know, if the car's not doing what you want, you kind of gotta do the best you can with what you got, right?
Right. I agree. How do you make that?
So what are your options there? Like, you know, you're not gonna have a guy going around there lowering your tire pressure at 90 miles an hour.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I think this is an important question for the Garage Heroes and training team to take on. First, I want to hear what you guys think, because I know for a fact that you all race a car that has variable handling characteristics as you burn off a fuel load. And I'm talking about El Jefe, your S10 race truck that has the fuel cell somewhere between the rear wheels or behind them or something like that. But all the variable fuel weights back in the back of the truck, right?
Yes, we have put the fuel cell in the Porsche position.
Right. So, Jen, for example, like, you know, as you're racing that truck and the butt end lighter and lighter as the fuel burns up, do you have to do anything different? Can you? It's okay if you don't set anything specific. I'm just curious to know if that's something that struck you before, like, oh, I got to change this or this about my driving.
What was the question?
We're talking about when you drive the S10.
It's a Dominating with Dawson
off.
segment, Jen.
No, we're talking about how to adapt ourselves and our driving to a car that's not handling ideally. And I brought up your El Jefe race truck because it always changes as the fuel burns off. So how do you have to drive it differently as the fuel load decreases? That was kind of my question. You know, how do you guys react to that thing that's always changing as you run through a stint?
I don't know. Vic?
I just noticed that as the back end gets lighter, there's just definitely more play in it. So
when you say play, what does that mean? Slides a little more readily?
It actually lifts a little bit more, slides a little bit more. There's also the fact that we have aero on the front and nothing on the back, which creates
that'll really activate the rear end.
Yeah, it really does. So
I guess I really don't notice or haven't noticed it.
Jennifer doesn't go out 10 for 10. Jennifer usually goes out between 7 for 10.
Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah, this is inside baseball. We're talking pretty heavy, like inside baseball, chassis dynamics kind of stuff. So it's okay that you don't have like, oh yeah, I can answer.
Right.
That's fine.
But there is when you're driving it, and from what I do understand is that, especially during our last race, we've had some guys go out and drive it, and they really are used to sliding in the back. And I think one of the guys was saying that as he was sliding around the turn, he's looking at the guy and making eye contact and basically saying, I'm taking you over. Yes, it looks weird, but I'm still coming around to take over.
Oh, yeah. I'm sideways to the angle where I can eyeball you. But yes, this is still happening. Yeah, I got it.
This is still happening.
I got you. Yeah. I got you. I know how that works.
So
you may not quite agree that the truck is faster than you, but I am here to tell you that the truck is faster than you.
Yeah, like I think the only time I've ever rated an S10, there were a lot of those moments where people were like, seriously? An S10? I'm like, seriously, bye.
Yeah. So our issue is trying to figure out how to put aero on it. But then again, we just saw a race with somebody who had aero built on an open bed truck. And I'm like, can we do that? Like put a wing on. So
yeah, you definitely can.
Yeah. So, but see, our bed is all open. So, yeah. So there has to be some ways of doing it, but it would have to be independent welds and all that kind of stuff. But definitely, you do have to adapt for the fact that you do start losing weight in the back, and then you just have to be constantly aware of that when you're racing.
When you say adapt, what does that mean?
Well, because as the car gets lighter in the back, as you're using and you're burning fuel. I mean, we will drive that car for 2 hours before we'll fuel it back up again. And so that's a substantial amount of fuel burn that's happening right there. So as the car end gets lighter, you just have to be conscious of that happening and know that you're going to get more play in the back end because it is even lighter. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of the thrust of the whole question. And like if you're saying like Ben, you know, when you get in a car that that's already kind of set and it's in the middle of the race and it's not doing exactly what you'd like your ideal car to do, how you adapt it. And that's a great example of like, yeah, as I'm driving the truck and I know the fuel burns off, the rear end gets a little more light, gets a little turn happy, and kind of, so I have to be cognizant of that and sort of take a different approach to coming out of the corner so I don't overrun, the light rear end of the truck.
And also our gas fuel cell is a substantial size. And
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is huge. That's in the
22,
back end of
24,
this
something like
thing.
that.
So we do burn, and there is a substantial amount of weight that will get lost in it.
It was, how many gallons go in there? 22, 24, something like that?
I think it's 22, but
So, yeah, that's a lot. I mean, you probably your standard S10 tank is probably 15 or something like that. I would guess, but that's
We
probably
usually
it's
take
probably a
about
lot more.
2.5 cans.
but
Yeah.
that's not dry.
Okay.
So Jen, I've got a different way of asking the same question to you. You ready?
Yes.
When you're driving and you don't like it, but you often get a different car each time you go. So what happens when you're driving the S10 versus driving the BMW versus driving the Miata? Those are probably the three that you've driven most consistently.
You mean what?
Do you drive differently, or do you do the same thing in all the cars?
Oh, they're all different.
Right. And are you doing anything different with each, or are you kind of driving them all the same yet?
You can't. Well, you can't drive them all the same. I mean, because they all do different things. Like
Right.
the Miata's, like, I mean, you can really hug corners in the Miata,
Yeah.
and you just
Mm-hmm.
you can't really do that in some of the other cars. It's just different. The Miata's really low, and you know what I mean? Like it just
Mhm.
kind of tucks right in there. And the truck you can't, because you got, I guess what you were talking about.
Play.
The other segment was the roll.
You got the body roll.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
The Miata, you really don't have that too much. The BMW, I haven't really had an opportunity to drive the BMW, only just for a very short period of time. So I really, it would be unfair for me to.
The BMW is extremely balanced.
It was very balanced, and it was easy to go fast in it. Like you didn't know you were going fast in it.
Oh, you know what? But you know why? Do you know why? That
Why?
is
Why?
because it's the ultimate driving machine.
That's what they say.
It is the ultimate driving machine, guys. Sorry, I don't know if you saw that slogan, their lifelong ad campaign, but that's why.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So
Nope,
that
no
was
worries.
one of the. It's like you were going fast, but you really didn't realize you were going fast.
And now we're introducing a front wheel drive into all of our mix next.
Yeah, I'm really kind of
Yeah.
excited about that.
We're talking about a yellow Honda.
Yellow Honda.
Yeah, baby. I think it's great. That thing.
So Jen,
Yeah.
I'd like to get you to think about this a little bit more. So you recently, like in the past, like last year and this year, you really started taking longer driving stints. You were basically, before that, you were doing like less than an hour max, right?
Right.
So during that hour, your tires are getting hotter. Your brakes are probably starting to fade a little bit. They'll change throughout the stint. Your the track may be getting wet or dry or whatever, and each of those is going to affect how the car is behaving. Remember when we went to Mid Ohio?
Mhm.
Saturday morning, it was wet, and then throughout the day, it kind of got a little drier, and we were able to change and adapt your driving style to what the track and the car were giving you at the time. So that's kind of what we're trying to get to, is some of the things that you can do to adapt as the car is giving you what you want, or sometimes not giving you what you want.
Mhm.
And that's really what we're trying to say, is as you progress, and I think as you get to be a better driver, you can adapt more to what the car is giving you and still stay at whatever the effective limit is at that particular time, at that particular track, at that particular moment. Is that accurate, Ben?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you can try to dial in your car. You can set your camber angles. You can set your sway bar, and you can set everything that you want. But when you get behind the wheel and it's time to perform, it is what it is. And then you just got to do the best you can. And the better drivers can do that better.
I also think that sorry, Ben.
Bulldozers on.
No,
I also think that better. Go ahead, Ben.
right after Vicki says what she says, I have some.
1, 2, 3, go.
Vicki, go.
All right, we're gonna do this alphabetical. Ben.
Go ahead.
Okay. When we talk about being stuck out there in a car that's already performing the way it's going to perform for pretty much the whole time you're out there, I would say, what kind of things can we change to ask the car to do something different? If you're stuck with it, you're driving it the way you think it should be driven, but it's not turning the way you want to, or it's not braking or getting into the turn or out of the turn. What are things that we can change once we're in the car? That's my question to you guys.
Oh yeah. Do you want to answer Ben's question, or are you going to say what you want to say anyway?
I was just adding to it. Just I think that better drivers can actually feel how the car performs and in what areas that might need to be tweaked versus somebody who just sits behind the wheel and just kind of adapts to it. They're just like, oh, well, there's a little bit more sway up front than we want, so we need to do something about the roll bar. I mean, the sway bar, or they're feeling something differently in the back, so they might have to do some, different settings for their coilovers or something like that.
Okay, but that's adapting the car to the driver. What if it is what it is? What Ben asked, what would you do in your driving to accommodate a car that's maybe not behaving the way that you wish?
You just have to drive it the way it is, because you can't really adapt it at that point. It's built the way it's built.
But is there
what about your approach? Can you change? What about your approach can you change? So if it's not turning the way you want it to, what can Vicki and Jen do? What can Bill do? What can Ben do differently to try to affect it? Try to make it take a better shot at the turn. Maybe you get better grip at a different part of the turn or stuff like that. That's going to help you maximize it. If it's not working in one area, what can you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that advanced. I would just drive the car and try to make, if it's not turning the way I want, then maybe I need to approach a turn differently, or I need to to apply the brakes differently, or I need to exit out later, or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, you're listening off a lot of good ideas.
It's kind of like you can't put it into words, because it's just, you feel it. And
right.
You know what I mean? Like, and the more times you go around, the more familiar you become with the track. And you know what I mean? Like, oh, that turn, let me try this in this turn. Like, it didn't go so well, or it was slipping a little bit. Let's do this. You know what I mean? And it's not like, I don't know. I really have difficulty putting it into words, but it is, the more you're out there and you're driving, and as the truck's driving, you're just adjusting to it. But I wouldn't be able to put it into words.
And you don't drive 10 for 10 coming out of the gate right away.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get your feel for your car. You got to get your car warmed up. You got to figure out how your car is going to perform before, you go 10 for 10, probably,
right.
Further into the race. You do that, say, for instance, on warm up, and you hit a wall or something.
So I think,
right. But we're still talking about once you get going, though. Once you get going, the car is doing what it's going to do. You're competing as hard as you're going to compete. We're not talking about the working up to it phase or the figuring it out phase. Like, we're in the you're stuck with it phase. What things can we talk about doing? And Vicki, you mentioned good stuff. You kind of change your approach to your braking. You can kind of change your approach to your throttle timing if you're trying to get your exit there. But these, another thing to change is, where am I turning? How hard am I turning? How much angle am I throwing at it? But these are all different things that you can try adjusting and changing. One of the easiest first things to change if the car's not working the way you want to is just to change your brake timing. And it's not going to hurt anything to change your brake timing first by trying to brake earlier. Give yourself a half a braking marker earlier. See what that does for your turn in. That might unlock the whole corner for you. You may be trying to break too deep or something like that. So it's not the change isn't always toward the extreme. What you think is going to make you faster side. Maybe you want to change something relatively simple, just like, hey, I keep trying to get in this turn. It's just not working the way I want to. So I'm just going to back it up a half a brake marker. It can be something as simple as that. But we're talking about changing one thing at a time. It didn't go great this time around the lap. Next lap around, go, hey, I'm going to try braking a tiny bit earlier. I'm going to try turning it a little bit later with more steering angle to see what that does. Try one thing at a time each time around. I'll try two or three things. But these are all relatively simple things that you can do. And, it's okay to do them. You don't have to be trying them at 10 tenths, try them at 8 tenths or something like that. And if it feels like, that kind of felt better, then next time around, try it a little faster. Does that kind of stuff make sense?
Yep.
So using a little inside baseball, Ben wasn't at the race. We've been to a couple of races where certain systems have failed. Usually we try and keep it to the steering and the braking so far.
Or the fuel system.
Yeah, the fuel system.
We try to put some on fire. Yeah, get that on fire a little bit.
We do. But you guys have both experienced when the brakes aren't exactly stellar or when the power steering wasn't exactly proper. And you guys made adaptations to that. Right. And your times didn't vary that much. So I think you guys are doing it. You just don't realize you're doing it.
Yes.
Right.
No,
but I mean, like I said, it's hard to say, it's hard to put into words. You're just doing it, but I wouldn't be able to describe it.
Well, that's true. I think that makes sense. We always talk about how, like, I'm not riding around the track thinking, okay, Ben, now's the ideal time to trail brake into this section of turn. Like, I'm never thinking that either. But if you're stuck, if you're out there, things aren't going great, it is okay to open this chapter of the book in your mind and go like, all right, I am consciously, this is sort of a little bit about intentionality and being conscious about what you want to try to change. But if you're out there, you're stuck, this thing's handling like crap in this corner or the whole track, then it's time to remember, okay, I can't open up this chapter. Remember, like, all right, change my brake time a little bit, back it up, change my throttle application time. I'm trying to get the throttle too earlier and it's pushing me off the corner. So I'm going to brake a little earlier, let the car get in, take a set, get on the throttle a little bit later. Whatever it is. I'm not saying all those things in succession at the same time, but try little approaches and try to make some conscious changes and see how it goes lap after lap. You're out there in an endurance set or an HPDE session. You've got some time to sort of work on something. Try it this lap around. If it's one section of the track or the whole handling characteristic of the car. Either way, you got time to work on it. And I would start kind of conservative and work my way up. If things aren't working, you're probably pushing something too hard. Is usually what I would guess.
So this is a good example to put into practice because we're getting ready to go to pit at the crossover NASA Great Lakes event. And when we go there with our group of friends, we all have a tendency to car hop in each other's cars to take them out.
Good.
So that's great. Just to try different vehicles and see how they feel. And when you're going out and you're testing the cars, and for some reason, this is the event that we do it at. So this would be a good way to consciously put those, the thing we just discussed into play. Yeah,
just try something different. If this car is not doing exactly what you want, vary your approach one thing at a time. Just kind of see what works. You may make a change that magnifies the bad characteristic you don't like, and that tells you maybe it's time to try the other direction. Mm-hmm. You're trying to always assemble a bigger and bigger tool chest of references of things to try. You know what you can and can't get away with certain cars, that sort of thing. So you're just always continuing to build the bigger and bigger tool chest.
Right. And Jen, in spite of you not being able to articulate it, which makes it difficult for a podcast, but
that's okay.
I'm sorry about that.
But we know you do it because you told me when we were at Charlotte and it started to rain that you had to lift when you crossed over the start finish line because it was really slippery there. And when you were at Mid Ohio, you wouldn't just hammer on the gas or hammer on the brake when it was wet because it was slippery and icy is essentially what it felt like. And you would just make sure that you rolled onto it a little softer and didn't push it quite as hard and maybe didn't visit the bottom of the floor with the gas pedal because if you did, bad things happen. So it's something that you do. And I think you're getting to the point now where it's becoming natural. And I guess the reason that Ben and I pushed a little bit on this question was trying to make sure that you understand,
Mhm.
you know, and,
Yeah, you're already doing this stuff. Yeah.
right. And you've gotten a whole lot better and you don't notice it because it was gradual. It's kind of like the truck when we're driving it and it's losing weight in the back because gas is going down. It's not like one lap you've got 25 gallons of gas and the next lap you've got 2. It's 24 point something, and you just adapt to it. And the thing is, sometimes you do it without noticing it, and maybe sometimes you need to sit there when you got a car that's ill behaved, is think about, okay, what can I do to get the car? It's just not doing this one turn or maybe 2 turns or whatever. And what are your options? And that was where we were trying to get to with the discussion is, applying the brakes quicker, faster, earlier, harder, softer. There's knobs to turn because nothing's an on-off switch. Even with our cars, the gas pedal's not an on-off switch, although sometimes it's pretty close because there's not a lot of gas pedal there. But you just these are the things you get to turn to try and dial in. This is the best I can do right now at my ability with this car today. And that's as you grow as a driver, you have more and more of these things in your pocket that you can, adjust.
Yep.
All right. Ben Dawson, Vicky's giving the thumbs up. I think that's a good. that must have worked well then. Thank you, Ben.
I like how the background you have. I can only see Bill and I can only see Vicky when she leans way forward. I see waves most of the time. I see waves and palm trees. And Vicky's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I saw her hand come out. Do it.
That's right. You just know when the microphone disappears from my hand, the bulldozer's coming.
I think that was so that when it was kind of a meaty topic for us to kind of go through, but it's something that's super important for us in endurance racing because often you're driving a car that's not ideal to exactly what you want, so you're kind of always having to adapt, and it's good to build a bigger and bigger set of references for what you can try, what might work, so you gotta stay out there and stuff. And eventually, your car not fit love by time you're done running it, but you'll be faster and faster as you try to work with what the car can do instead of being sort of irritated with what it won't do. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's the only reason we won a pit race because the car was not behaving well at the end, and we just kept going laps because we could have stopped, but then we wouldn't win. So cool.
That's right. You gotta stay out there and try to finish with whatever the car.
But at the same time, you also got to feel the car. And if you know that you're going to end up totally trashing that car in order to win, probably not the best.